Courtney Carver was living a fairly typical American middle-class life as a working wife and mother until 2006. That's when she received a devastating medical diagnosis, multiple sclerosis. Eager to maximize her health and minimize her symptoms, Courtney decided to make some life changes. They were both big and small. The goal to live her life on purpose. Soon after, her website titled Be More with Less was born. Originally launched to share her journey, it's now become her life's work. It's also a platform for a thriving community of people who are seeking simplicity in their own lives. As a result of eliminating her family debt, her downsizing and decluttering, she's now healthier than she was before the onset of her illness. Courtney Carver joins us now to share the many benefits of cleaning up and paring down and her 7 steps to becoming a minimalist. Welcome to Full Front, Courtney.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So you get this diagnosis, which I'm sure is devastating, and one doesn't automatically say, okay, well, I got this diagnosis, now's the time to declutter and to change everything. I mean, how did this come about? And we just mentioned you're feeling better, healthier as a result of it, but what made you think, I'm going to start getting rid of junk?
Yeah, I didn't go to that place right away. In fact, at first it was really working through a lot of fear and worry, but once I really had a chance to process what everything meant, I really wanted to learn how I might live well with MS. And so I did a lot of research, talked to people who were very active with MS, and learned that stress is really terrible for that disease and, of course, many others. It can cause and make exacerbations much worse. And just looking at my lifestyle, it was very stressful, but I thought it was pretty normal up until that point. So that was really my wake-up call to say things have to change.
You used a word there, normal, and I think everybody kind of feels like this is the normal. This is the new normal, what you're doing. I mean, it's kind of catching on, but initially, was there a lot of buy-in? Because I think that you've got, it's not just you, you're talking about a family and or getting rid of junk, you know, which everybody has to kind of be on board, don't they? I mean, I know yours was a gradual process.
It was very gradual, and I don't think everyone has to be on board right away. You know, you really have to start with your own stuff, whether that be clutter or debt or busyness, whatever your stuff is. But for me, it really started with diet and eliminating the stress in my body from eating things that caused inflammation. And that was just sort of the first step in eliminating other stressful things. So it was a very slow progress, and each little change kind of gave me confidence to make the next change.
It's interesting, though, getting back to the word normal, we don't buy all of these things to produce stress. I think we buy them because it's going to bring joy into our life, but then we have an abundance of all this stuff. And I don't think a lot of people look at it and say, all this stuff that I have, it's creating stress, but you were able to make that connection.
Well, once I really took a good look at my shopping habits, maybe I told myself I was buying things because they would bring me joy, but I was really buying to medicate myself from feeling the stress and the overwhelm and working too hard. You know, I thought I deserved nice things because I was working so much. And I think we fall into that cycle sometimes where, you know, we spend the weekend at the mall because it feels good in that moment to shop for sport, really. But then that happiness fades quickly and you're left with either the stuff or the debt. And then in most cases, a year later, you don't remember where that debt came from or what that thing was or why you really needed it or wanted it.
So you come home with the shopping bags from the mall and you go through all the goods that you've gotten, but the bill from the credit card doesn't come for a while later, and then you're like, how did this happen? But that was a big part of the elimination too, is eliminating the debt.
It was, and the stuff and the debt kind of went together because as I was eliminating stuff, I didn't want to fall into that cycle of just making space for more stuff, which is what I had done before in, you know, big attempts to spring clean or declutter after the holidays. It was always about making space for the incoming, and this time I just wanted to clear it out. So it was really sort of natural for me to stop spending and then really attack the debt at the same time.
Parents always kind of want to be role models to their kids. I mean, what has been the implication there in terms of what you're teaching your daughter? I mean,
Well, my daughter is 19, and we started this whole process when she was, I think, about 11 or 12. And so as a preteen, the idea of not going shopping every weekend isn't all that exciting. But now, 7 or 8 years later, I can really see the impact because she has no student loans, no credit card debt. She's currently traveling in Australia with just a backpack. So she's not, I guess, as caught up in that work really hard to make your money and then spend it all and go into debt as I was. And I think watching my husband and I pay off our debt and really pull back from shopping for no reason, I think it rubbed off a little bit.
we're going to get to your 7 steps in just a minute,
Sure.
but I think about people watching this, and I'm sure a lot of people are kind of assessing their own life and saying, maybe it's time for me to make some adjustments. But then I think there's other people out there who are saying, oh my God, this woman's the ruination of mankind. The people who are selling us all this stuff. I mean, everywhere you go, there's this ad, that ad. Oh, I've got to have this. When you're going through the checkout line, it's like people grabbing stuff. I mean, do you ever think, I mean, it's the last laugh on you. I mean, do you think about that?
I mean, sometimes I don't think this resonates with everyone right away, but I think once you have a chance to sort of step back and separate yourself from what you're used to doing, you really notice that you don't need a lot to be happy. And the things that or actions that you're taking to seek that happiness aren't always working. But it really does take some experimenting and kind of backing away to know that for yourself. It looks different for everyone.
And the health thing, I mean, you must have known reducing the stress would help your health, but at this stage, looking back on it, are you surprised? I mean, initially you probably thought, well, maybe it'll be minimal changes, maybe it'll help me a little bit, but I mean, are you shocked at the net effect of all of this?
I'm not. I mean, I've had a lot of time to really think about it, and I've been very intentional about this whole healing process, because for me, the decluttering is not about necessarily not owning the stuff or just having less. It's really, for me, about love and health. And I know that in order to give my family the best of me and my friends, I have to be healthy. And so getting diagnosed with MS gave me permission to be really selfish and think about my health and well-being, and know that if I always look after that first, everything else sort of falls into place.
Okay, let's start walking through the 7 steps, and let's begin with the first, which is coming up right now. Write it down.
Sure, and I should say these aren't 7 steps that I took while I was going through the process, but looking back, I can see that they were instrumental in making this not an overwhelming task. So number 1, write it down. Write down your why. Why do you want to simplify your life? Why do you want to get rid of the debt? Are you sick of debt collectors? Do you want to fire your boss and do different work? What's your why? And when you understand that, you have great emotional leverage when things get challenging, and they often get challenging. So to really understand why you're making a significant change helps.
Is it hard to go there initially? Because you really have to kind of assess who you are and the steps that you've been taking with your life.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard. I think actually people, once they allow themselves to go there, are so grateful that they took the time to do it, because there is so much learning to do in that space.
Okay, so I have a pen. We can do the write it down. Let's move to number 2 on the list. And here it comes. Discard the duplicates. When I was reading this, I was like, oh, this is such a no-brainer. And yet everybody's got 50, 60 Tupperware containers. Do you really need 60? And the measuring cups. When I read that, I was like, oh, of course.
And if there's 50 Tupperware containers, there are 60 lids or 40 lids. Never
There's only
match.
20 lids. No, it's never, that's
never
the one thing
match.
you're missing is the lids, absolutely.
Yeah. So discard the duplicates. I like to start with the easiest stuff. Like, don't make it so you want to give up right away. So duplicates are easy. Measuring spoons, maybe you have 40 forks and you only have 4 people in your family. You don't need that many. I always thought it was funny that we had 3 people living in our house, but between the dining room, the kitchen, and the patio, we had 20 dining chairs for 3 people. That is crazy.
Got to have a party every day if you
Yeah.
got that. Got to invite like a whole platoon over. Let's look at number 3. Here it comes. So number 3 is declare a clutter-free zone. So start, I guess, in a sense, small. Find a spot that this is going to be my area. I'm going to guard it.
Exactly. And a space that could be, in the closet, it could be right in the kitchen, wherever it is, but it's sort of your minimalist sanctuary. And it's a place that can inspire other clutter-free zones. And it's also a way to include the family and say, see this little spot here? Nothing goes here. And I think they start to respect that space and enjoy the space, and then that just grows into other clutter-free areas.
Pretty soon, clutter-free is conquering the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just moving and
Expanding.
moving. Yeah, there you go. So let's take a look at the next tip. These are all great ideas, by the way.
Thanks.
Travel lightly. Boy, this is another good one. I travel a lot with this show. People lugging all kinds of junk, and they're really not even gone for that long.
Yeah, we always overpack. I think whenever we travel, or a lot of us, we want to make sure we don't need for anything while we're gone. So we bring all of it. But I have found that if you pack by starting by packing for half the time you're going. So if you're going to be gone for a week, just pack for half the week. No one is going to remember what you were wearing when you were traveling. You can wear things more than once. And I actually have a rule now never to check a bag. So no matter where I'm going or for how long, my bags are with me because I don't want to wait by baggage claim or go through that whole process of losing your luggage or all of that. So less is certainly more in terms of enjoying the places that you travel.
You aren't the person that sits in front of me, though, that can't get it into the overhead compartment, because it's like, those people drive me crazy too. But let's the next one, though, this is a tough sell, I think. I've got 5 sisters, got a wonderful wife and a daughter. This whole concept, the dress with less, and your numbers that you put out there, I mean, that would have a lot of women ripping their hair out.
It sounds shocking to a lot of people. And I think when people first hear about it, they just run away. They close the website or whatever they're looking at and say, forget it, this is not for me. But it works on you if you're thinking about it for a while. And so many times I hear from people that say, I thought that idea was crazy, but now that I've tried it, it really makes a lot of sense. And that is to limit your wardrobe. Experiment. It's only 90 days, 3 months. It flies by. Choose 33 items: clothing, accessories, jewelry, and shoes. Sometimes I lose people on the shoes. But try it. And you don't have to get rid of all your other things. Just box it up and set it aside. Have that separation and see how it feels. When I first tried it, I thought, this is never going to work. People will think I'm crazy. I'm going to go crazy. But within the first week, I noticed that mornings were easier. I could get ready more quickly. And I was working full-time when I first started the Project 333 and meeting with clients and business associates, and no one ever noticed that I was dressing with less.
Imelda Margos is being held back over there. I mean, how many shoes did she have? Like 8 zillion. 8 similar meals.
Yeah, I think a lot of our stress is in the kitchen. What's for dinner? That is the one question that busy moms really cringe at hearing. But if you can streamline that meal process and eat the same breakfast and lunch every day for a week and maybe rotate between 2 dinners, sort of experiment and see what the family thinks, it really eliminates a lot of waste and stress.
Let's talk about the 7th, because I think this is an area where a lot of people need help, and that's saving money. I mean, it's just, the concept is fantastic, but people really struggle doing it, having the emergency fund.
Yeah, I always struggled with saving money. I never struggled with spending money, even money that I didn't have, ironically enough. However, once I saved this $1,000 emergency fund, and it took some time, but I put it before even paying off additional debt, it really alleviated all of that pressure of what if something goes wrong? What if the car breaks down, or we need a medical thing that is not covered by insurance? All those little emergencies actually seem to go away once you are protected with that $1,000. And you don't save it overnight, but it's something that I think that you can really work towards and get it saved, and that helps you stay on course for paying down your debt.
Listening to you, all these are fantastic tips, but for so many people, eliminating the debt saving the money, just putting that out there to them is like, hey, you got some extra time, why don't you climb Mount Everest with me? Because
Sure.
it seems so daunting. And it must have to you as well. So any tips that you can pass on to people watching this that, look, it may look tough, but these are things that you can do to do it?
Well, it does look tough and it feels tough because you know it might take 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but it's going to take that long no matter when you start. So I think if you can remove the pressure of, I have to reach the finish line by a certain date, that it really just becomes part of your day-to-day life. There are actually a couple of great reverse savings plans that I found to be really helpful, and I can't remember where I first heard about them, but you choose a time frame, maybe a year. It could be a year or 30 weeks or 52 weeks, whatever it is, and you save each week. So if it's 52 weeks, start with $52 the first week, 51 the next week, and it declines. So by the time you're done, you're putting less and less into it, and at the end, you have a sizable emergency fund, really depending on which way you decide to go.
What is a prized possession to you now? Because I guess when you start paring things out of your life, the stuff that really matters stays, has to. How do you identify that, and what do you see as a prized possession, perhaps?
That is a really hard question. Usually people ask me if I miss something that I've given away, which I don't. It's interesting, this process has made me much less attached to the things that I do own. So I don't really have, I think, a prized personal possession. There are things in my daily life that I really enjoy, like my laptop helps me do my work. I like having shoes to wear so that I don't have to go barefoot, things like that. But there's nothing that I would go to any length to protect or save if there was a fire or something like that. It's really has all come down to people and engaging in activities that I enjoy versus the physical stuff.
The people, the moments, that's what really matters
For
when
sure.
you cut right through it. Courtney, thanks so much. It's been a
Thanks.
delight talking to you. Coming up next, this week's Full Frame Close-Up explores a lifestyle of voluntary simplicity.